Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is, I feel like we've all been just completely disconnected for the last 9 days now, I guess it seems like. Friday, a week ago, was really our last day to kind of be open as I mean, we were open Thursday and Friday of last week and the weekend, but Thursday and Friday, while I was here for a little while, it was pretty scarce, which I completely understand. So we're going to start off as we normally do, and luckily we've got a great friend here this morning, someone that's familiar with our office, and more importantly, familiar with insurance, kind of a topical issue. And now we've got the power couple. I don't know if you guys knew it or not, but they got married on July 28th down in Mexico.
Yeah.
So I'm the only one that's going to know your anniversary. We share the same anniversary, just 33 years different. So Angelica, I'll let you introduce Nate.
Good morning, everyone. So good to see y'all, like Michael said. So my new name is Angelica Guajardo, and I am now a branch owner and agent with TWFG Insurance. I know most of you knew me with my old company, but yes, I'll let my husband introduce himself and also tell you a little bit about TWFG in case y'all aren't familiar with it.
Okay. Has anybody heard of TWFG before?
Yes.
Yes. Good.
Well, only because y'all.
Of us.
Well, TWFG is the biggest independent agency in Texas. So we are brokers. We work with 100 insurance carriers, A-rated carriers. Being A-rated, what that means is that whoever we work with is financially stable and able to pay out claims, even in disasters like what's going on right now. So, like currently, the past week I've had more claims in 1 week than I've had my whole insurance career. So we've had a lot of claims.
Yes,
So
definitely.
That's the heart walk.
so being a broker, what that means is we have options for clients. So if you guys send us a client, we are able to shop for them and able to get them the best rate and the best policy for them. So that's something different than, say, like where we used to work at Liberty Mutual, where we can only sell you one policy. So that's about it.
Yep. So what I'd like to, I guess, focus on, obviously the people in here that have worked with me, you guys know I'll take care of your clients. You know, if you have any kind of insurance needs as far as homeowners, anything like that, y'all know I'll take care of them. But right now, what we want you to know is use this as a resource. You know, I know right now your clients, family, friends probably have lots of questions. So definitely, regardless if you're our client or not, give us a call, shoot us an email. This is on you to us as well. I mean, this is, it hasn't happened. So we're kind of learning as we go. We have
Well, you were in elementary school the last time it happened. So.
Very true. That is true. So, 4th grade. So what we have in front of you, it's just some information you may be able to pass on. It's right off the FEMA website. That's also a very good source that you can go on, FEMA.gov.
.gov, yes.
Yeah, they are updating their website daily with information on how to handle claims, what to expect, just so much information on there. I will tell you, don't try to call. I think the wait when we called was over an hour. So definitely online is going to be the best way to try to get any kind of answers or assistance or anything like that. Just try, if possible, try to do it online. But does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So, can you write flood insurance?
Yes, so as of yesterday, all our carriers, if I'm not mistaken, have lifted the moratorium, which means business as usual. That wasn't the case, obviously, last week. We weren't really able to do anything. So as of yesterday, I believe all the carriers are able to write. We have already started writing flood policies. So yes.
Irma.
Yeah. As of right now, we're good. I mean, we don't know until they send the email out. And it's just like that. We get no kind of warning.
Yeah.
We got no kind of, with Harvey, as soon as and every carrier was doing it at different times. So we won't know until we get the email. And once we get the email, that's it. So what I would recommend, if you have any clients that are scheduled for closing, just try to get the insurance taken care of ASAP, because once it's bound, they're good. The coverage
For purchase.
for purchase,
But
yes.
for a current homeowner, there's a 30-day.
Correct. So that's another thing why it's important.
Get it closing.
It's very important to let your clients, or maybe just kind of nudge them a little, because when they close, that 30-day waiting period is waived with flood insurance. So if you're purchasing flood with the new home closing, it's effective immediately. Otherwise, there is a 30-day waiting period before the flood insurance goes into effect. Any other questions?
So,
I had a question.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, for the FEMA loans, what is the interest rate and advantages of those?
It varies.
Yeah.
It varies. It just depends. I
She's
mean,
an SBA loan when it comes to that.
Right.
FEMA's actually not doing the loans themselves. FEMA's giving out some monies, but I got flooded in 2001, that's why I know that, but it depends on different circumstances.
Right.
Like, why would somebody go to this loan versus
I didn't see the flyer. Oh,
just an
It's just
SBA?
that-
It has a
It's just
deferred
another-
interest period and.
oh yeah,
low interest
okay, so
rate.
example, we got a loan in 2001 and it was a 2% interest rate.
Yeah.
So yes, and they gave us like 5 years to pay it back and so forth like that. So
it's advantageous terms.
It's an opportunity, if your insurance, if you, like, I did not have flood insurance at the time in 2001, and it came in and helped with what we didn't have. So yes, it's something that, you know, it's there for people if they wish to take advantage of it. But I don't think it doesn't come from you, it actually comes
No.
from the SBA, and your different people will be reaching out to people.
If you go through the claim process, they'll probably bring that up. They'll probably ask,
were
are
there
you
when we got
interested in a
Give you the
loan?
option,
And they'll
yeah.
probably
Yeah.
bring that up as one of the options for you.
Yep.
Yeah. My question for you was tenants. So, you know, lots of people in the apartment complexes or in a lease house that did not have flood insurance, they're now out, and of course, their contents are their responsibility, but the landlord is responsible for fixing the property. Now, the landlord may have had flood insurance, but it won't cover the tenant's contents. Now that they're out, and maybe they're in temporary housing, but they're keeping their lease, they're waiting for the landlord to fix it so they can move back in. So is now the time that they would want to go ahead and put flood insurance on that, or after they move back in?
Can you put flood insurance on a rental?
Yes.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yes.
Oh, that's
So,
good to know.
yes, thank you for bringing that up. So, yeah, a lot, so flood insurance, you can do contents only. So a lot of people think because they're renting, they don't need renter's insurance, but you do. And now, a lot, you know, unfortunately, they had to learn the hard way that it wasn't covered under flood insurance. So I would honestly, because of the 30-day waiting period,
Yeah.
get it ASAP, and it will follow, you know, all we would have to do is switch the address or
Okay.
whatever.
What if
So-
it's a new lease? Can they immediately get flood insurance, or is that a 30-day
No.
waiting period? That only happens on purchases.
On closing,
Okay.
new home closings, right, right.
So,
Texas wind storm,
Yep,
you made it down in Texas City.
uh-huh,
All right, they owned the house a year. It came up, nobody notified them about it. It was up on August 1st. They got a notification saying that it expired August 17th. The bank turns around and says, well, being that you don't have it, we're gonna purchase it for you. But it's not gonna be retro from till the 1st, is it?
no, because it's showing, I don't believe so, no,
Don't you have a
unfortunately.
30-day?
So, are you talking about flood or windstorm,
I'm talking
TWIA?
about windstorm.
Oh, TWIA, I don't know if the 30-day applies for TWIA, it does for flood,
Well,
you have
don't
30
supposed to
days.
get notification? The money was paid in through his escrow.
Mhm.
But all of a
That's what I'm thinking, it should
sudden,
have
I
already
mean, they
gone.
did it last year through the escrow, and all of a sudden, they get a notification saying you don't have insurance. It ran out on the 17th.
If it was escrow, that should have been paid
Yeah,
automatically.
that would be paid through the lender. They might want to get with their lender
Yeah,
and have a
definitely.
conversation
The
about
mortgage
that.
company.
Yeah.
They need to contact the mortgage company.
you.
Because they should have automatically sent.
And I will tell you that a little bit of my experience in banking is that most banks have a huge policy
Yeah.
that covers their uninsured properties. That even though they force place it, if they say you don't carry it, we're gonna have to place it on
Right,
there.
right.
A lot of times it will retroactive on that, but you really need to have a conversation with
I
them.
know,
mortgage
because
company.
you're supposed to have wind insurance down here in order to have
Yeah,
insurance.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
And then, you had a question?
It was answered.
Oh, okay. You're
Good.
welcome.
Well, thank you so much,
You're
guys.
welcome.
And we're gonna plan to see you this afternoon.
Yes, we will be there to have some drinks and celebrate birthdays.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay.
All
Oh,
right.
she has,
Do you have a stack of your new cards?
yes,
Yes, we'll bring them.
we have, you have extras? We can just leave them up here?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
And then if you need extras?
Now, I will tell you that I had them take a look at my policy that I had currently in place, and I was able to save money. So hopefully Laura made the change.
She did. Oh,
All
we're
right,
good.
good. I gave
All right,
her,
y'all.
I gave her the go-ahead.
Yes, yes, y'all are taken care of.
Good. Perfect.
Got it? Okay, all right, guys.
Thank
Good
you.
seeing y'all.
Thank
See you
Thanks,
tonight.
guys. And thanks for breakfast.
You're welcome. Bye.
Good morning, everybody. Come on, Martin. All right, so topic. Insurance, homes, things like that. So for those of you,
Do you want me to drag that chair over here so you can stand on it?
I need a stool. You notice, okay, if you come
You
to my
should sit
office,
down.
I have been wearing some type of heels lately just because, I just need to be, but if I get taller, I'll be slimmer. Okay, so the elephant in the room, loans that were supposed to close last week. First and foremost, on Martin and my behalf, we're so glad that y'all are all okay, and we're so glad that we were able to help out and do whatever we can. I know that's not over with, and we're still here to help and everything. So first and foremost, you are always in our thoughts and our prayers. So let's talk about things that are going on right now. Loans that did not get to close because of Hurricane Harvey. Our company has moved those loans over to this month. Martin and myself were out taking pictures for loan officers at houses to show that they weren't damaged. And I praise the Lord that all my homes that I still had are still closing this week. So that is a great plus for them. Also, I'm sure many of you, because I've seen the different posts on Facebook, I'm sorry, what about us now? What about us now? How can we help our buyers, to get situated and everything? There is a loan out there, and we will be passing out a bulletin today where you will get a mass email from Martin and myself talking about the new loan. It's called a 203H. They find different letters to put in the alphabet attached to FHA loans. It is 100% financing, and it's for disaster. That's all I know about it just yet. I'm going to be bluntly honest with you. It's just something rolled out. I've heard other people go, call me, I know all the details. I don't know all the details. Our head underwriter and them got together, found out all the guidelines, and they're sending us an email within 2 or 3 hours. And then we're going to turn around and we're going to blast you guys. You are our first and foremost. You're our first customer. And we want to make sure you have the knowledge to share with your people. So do we know anything about it?
It's an FHA loan. It works very similar to
The 3.5%.
typical 3.5% FHA. I don't know if it goes down to 580 on the credit score.
I don't know. Those kind of things we don't know. But here's the thing. Most importantly, come and chat with us. We're going to reach out to each of y'all. If you have questions, if you have a buyer that this is going to fit their need, we'd love to help them. Do we want to get back to business as usual? Yes, because it brings back normalcy. And let's be honest, it also brings back our income. This can affect us a lot of different ways, all of us. And we're here to make sure as we can for you, get your buyers in, get them qualified, get them some normalcy back in their life. As far as things like you mentioned, Tommy, about insurance going out in the middle of all this. When a person pays insurance into their escrows, what happens is once a year, the lender cuts a check to the insurance company with the borrower's information on it showing that they are insured. If you had a buyer that said, I got a letter saying that they didn't get my insurance, the biggest thing we tell our customers is if you change insurance companies throughout the year, let the lender know right away because they're automatically going to send it to the other insurance companies. So communication is very important. But that person right there needs to reach out to their lender and say, prove to me where you paid this. Because a lot of times it may get sent to one place and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And then that letter, if you hear me talk about my spiel, when I tell people always keep insurance, because if you don't, the lender will insure it 3 times the max. They'll do that rather quickly because they want to make sure their property is insured and everything. But communication and just getting with them.
And now it's been 30 days. They just got a letter all of a sudden.
More than likely, the lender already sent off that insurance, that payment to the insurance company, and they'll, more than likely, the right thing to do would be, but they just need to have a conversation with their lender and so
I'll
forth.
come and talk to you about it, because they called somebody up, they called up Windstorm. Windstorm said, I don't have you down at all.
Yeah.
I can't find anything under your name.
But Windstorm, there may be another department within that company that gets the payment, they just have it transferred over. And that fear sets in right about now with all this stuff.
Right.
Speaking on flood insurance, if your customer is closing, get them to go ahead and get the flood insurance. They can pay it at closing. They don't have, it's not escrowed in the payment. They can get it right there and then, and when the moment they sign and it's bound, it goes into effect. So I would definitely, we always tell our people, even though you're not in a flood zone, I didn't have that peace of mind this last time. And I told my husband, never again will I go through anything in Texas again. Even though water didn't come up in my house, it's just that fear. And let me tell you something, $300 or $400, I'd rather pay $300 or $400 and have that peace of mind as to not. Insurance is insurance. We hope we never need it, but it's there in case we have to.
I know you know a little bit on it. So, flood insurance, windstorm. Windstorm from down, 4 foot down, flood 4 foot up.
I'm gonna tell you, I don't know that. I know certain areas require windstorm depending on where they're at because of the counties. I know
Galveston County.
anything Galveston County comes up,
Gulf Coast
Gulf
counties,
Coast, they're gonna require it. That part, I don't know the answer to that.
All right.
Angelica is really good source.
All right, I'll-
Candy's a really good source. Y'all have a lot of good sources right at your
Okay.
fingertips. But I just know that if they purchase the flood insurance at closing, it goes into effect immediately, and they don't have to worry about it. Now, did you?
I didn't know that.
Yes, if you're buying a brand new home and you purchase flood insurance at closing, it goes into effect immediately. They waive the 30 days. That's the most important thing you should tell any of your clients. They can all ring up all the insurance agents. FEMA regulates it. And please don't think that insurance agents are going to gouge people because they need this thing right now. FEMA regulates that, and there's nothing they can do for that. FEMA regulates what flood costs, and they determine the area and so forth. Educate your buyers and educate your sellers too, that it wouldn't hurt, with this going on, to have those kind of things set in place. So if you need Martin and I, we are here for you. Do you have any questions we can answer right now? Go ahead.
The 30-day waiver, that's if I was to purchase flood insurance now, and that's pending nothing happens within 30 days, correct?
From my understanding, yes. If anything happens in the Gulf, they stop right there and then. I don't know if that counts our days or not. I'm not an insurance agent. Angelica's still out here. I would definitely ask her that question. I just know when something's in the Gulf, they can't write anything. I myself am getting my flood insurance today. I'm getting it bound today, so I don't have to do this anymore. That worry and fear and all that kind of stuff. So, and I've never lived in a flood zone, but I got flooded in 2001 with Tropical Storm Allison. And this time, praise God, I did not get flooded. But I just want that peace of mind myself.
Right.
So, but yes, if you have buyers that are closing this month, this week, let's get it bound. It doesn't affect the buyers. They can go ahead and pay it at closing and they're good to go. Any other questions? Well, look for our emails that we'll be sending out. I'm sorry, I still have a cough. I'll be sending out the email later today, giving you all the information. Come talk with us,
So
okay?
you say anybody can qualify for this 203H?
Not necessarily. We're
No.
getting information on
We're
it.
getting all the information
Okay.
on it. It's a disaster type loan that the president's put out. It's a 203H, which is an FHA loan, and they get 100% financing
Okay.
as opposed to 3.5%.
Okay.
As far as the other guidelines, we don't know them just yet, and I've actually read 2 emails that it's coming out within the hour.
Okay.
So we'll definitely inundate you with as much information as we possibly can. We'll just give you overload.
So the H probably stands for Harvey.
It probably does. But don't forget tonight, guys. Come celebrate with us. Angelica, the title company, ourselves, we're all going to sponsor drinks and appetizers over there. Come and relax and have a laugh and have a drink and have a little bit of food. And let's get back to normal, like I said, as much as we can.
Great.
Have a blessed day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So what I wanted to cover today were a couple of different things, and some of you may have noticed that Jason's in the back of the room, and we're going to bring Jason up here in a few minutes. But first, I just wanted to kind of give you an overall assessment. I know there's been lots that's gone out on emails, some stuff served on Facebook. I want to talk a little bit about the market and just kind of give you some things that you can share with friends and sellers and buyers, what you can initially talk to them about. Let's start with our office and the agents that were affected by the storm here at Keller Williams Northeast. We were really fortunate. As much as I hate the few that had a problem, in comparison to other markets around Houston, our percentage of agents that had a flood-related issue was fairly small. We had about 15 agents that ended up with some type of flood-related issue, whether that was a leaky roof or water in their house or potentially a flooded car. It might have been up to 20 with flooded cars when I add those on top of there, but we definitely had some people that were affected, and our heart goes out to them. From everything we've done, every one of those has been contacted and communicated with and offered help and assistance. Many of them have taken advantage of that, which has been awesome. I sat in the parking lot this morning on the phone call with Stephanie Clyde, who was in a very chatty mood. And some of you may not know Stephanie because she's not in the office all that often. She and her husband used to own a paint store here in Atascocita. He sold that several years ago, and now he's in the construction business, and they live on Atascocita shores. And they flooded in '94, and they flooded again in some other little high water issue. And then she was telling me this morning that they had a water tank leak or a toilet leak or something like that. So they had another part of the house that flooded at one point. So this is their fourth time to have water in their house. She basically knows the FEMA adjuster's children's names. But she's always had flood insurance, and that's been a blessing. So she kind of knows the process. But she was talking about how awesome it was to have the group from Keller Williams Cares come out and spend several hours at her home. Even though a lot of the initial demo work had been done, they came in and found other things that they could do. And you've probably seen on our Facebook page many of the other agents that have also had teams that have gone out. And of course, we've had people from our office that have gone directly to some of our agents' homes. So I want to kind of go through the list that we have, and then I want to see if there's anybody else that you know of that's in our office that for some reason didn't share that information with us that you've communicated with, so we know who we need to reach out to today to get updated information. So let me kind of give you the list here as we go through this. The first is Bob and Terry. Yeah.
Can you email that to us?
I can, yeah. So Bob and Terry Blewett, Foster's Mill Estates. Terry just got through renovating her house. Maybe she's been able to enjoy it for about a month.
About a year.
Oh, has it been a year? Oh, she's been renovating another house that she owns. So, it's just a beautiful home. We've had several Keller Williams events at her house. We decorated 4th of July floats and a few other things there. So they had water over their kitchen countertops. And were rescued by Karen Farmeyer's husband and son on jet skis. To get in, because they were trying to get in with canoes or kayaks initially, and the water was too swift, so they had to come back with something with a little bit more power. I believe they're gutted at this point, and so there's not any need for any more work at their house. Stephanie Clyde, I just talked to, she's good. They've been fairly fortunate in that Steve had a lot of construction contacts, so they've had a dumpster delivered to their house almost every single day, so they don't really have the piles of debris out in front of their house as you've seen in other parts of it, and they're completely gutted at this point too. Pat Eisengreen, yeah. Many of you might not know her. She's an older lady, longtime Kingwood resident, has probably been with us for less than a year as an agent.
Like a week.
A week?
Yeah.
No, it's been longer than that, hasn't it?
Yeah, about 2-3 weeks.
We just put her in the system.
Oh, wow. I thought it had been longer
She's
than
been
that. Maybe she's been coming to some of the training before that.
Yeah, and she had a delay because she had to reactivate because it was expired.
Right.
And then as soon as she did, that's why it feels long.
So she lives over here in Kingwood Greens in a patio home, single lady. Her son lives over in Huffman, and she has a lot of clothing and a lot of possessions and a beautiful home with lots of decorations. Gorgeous, probably 2,500 square foot, one-story patio home, and the water came up to probably 2.5 feet in her house, below kind of the first drawer, I think, in the kitchen countertops. But just, they were pulling the wood floors up yesterday when I was there. She may be our need today or tomorrow. She has found a storage unit, and we have spent the last 2 days boxing her up, and it is all in her garage. And that all needs to be removed so that they can then go in and start power washing the interior of the house. So when I put the call out, that's what we're going to need, is some people that can show up. She's got to find a moving truck. and we got to get a moving truck there so we can load her up and get her stuff delivered to a storage unit. So that's going to be our need today.
I have a truck with my trailer on it right now. It's a small open trailer, but.
Well, that might be what we end up with because it's kind of a scarcity to find trucks at this point.
Michael,
Yeah.
there's still some people with without electricity, and I think Mary Ellen sent me a text yesterday saying she has no electricity again, which means she's got no internet or anything. And I only got my internet back and telephone and cable back on Sunday.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
I don't have internet at my house still.
Wow. So are you able to communicate by your cell phone? Internet on your cell phones at
Yeah,
this point?
I don't always get
Well,
emails, so.
the thing was that I am it with AT&T, and it was a very low.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd be.
Go to Donna's house.
something-
AT&T works great at her house for some
Well,
reason. Verizon sucks on her house, but AT&T
Yeah,
works.
I think when there's so many people on
Yeah.
at once, because I'd be cut off when I'm talking
Yeah.
to somebody.
Yeah.
So actually, although I've got internet and everything on my phone and iPad, I couldn't actually get it.
Okay. Yeah, power is still an issue. So kind of continuing through our list, Pat's probably going to be in need today. Chris Heinrich, some of you know Chris. He's Mark Heinrich's son. He's a licensed agent in our office, also a home builder, and he owns a house on Walden on Lake Houston on the water, and he took on water, but he's good. Steve Kinney lives over in Oakhurst. No flooding, but he did have a roof damage, roof leak, and he's dealing with that directly. Rhonda Langdon, I don't know, does she live in North Shore? Someone said North Shire, and I don't think that's right because of our
North
address.
Shire.
North Shore.
Her son's house is in North Shire.
Okay.
And that's where
But I think she also,
evacuated to
but I
when
think
she
she
first
also had
took
problems in her own property too. So, and I believe a Kennedy Cares team has been out to that house also. Shannon Lewis, she lives over in Deer Cove, which is down by the baseball fields in Kingwood, kind of like across the street from the Barrington. And she's had a KW Cares team out at her house. Maria Macias, she also had a KW Cares team out at her house, and they did a lot of work. Cynthia Martinez, I don't know if you've been on Facebook. How many follow Ricky Kane on Facebook? He's a Austin Keller Williams agent. He did an interview of Cynthia in her front yard. So you need to go back and find Ricky Kane's post of interviewing Cynthia. And I think Diana Kokoska called in or did something in that video. I haven't watched it all the way to the end, but there was comments about Diana Kokoska calling in and talking to Cynthia. But Cynthia ended up evacuating and had water damage, and she's had a KW Cares team at her house. Leanne Risler has currently denied any help because she wants the insurance adjuster to come out first before she does anything. But there could be a need there after that takes place. Leslie Rufino, did you talk to Leslie recently, Donna?
About last night, and
Yeah.
yesterday afternoon, and talked to Joey, and they're kind of at a standstill. The floors are up, the cabinets are out. We were talking about dehumidifiers, and so it was at 53, whatever that means. And he said, I've been told that when it gets like in the 40s, that's good. But we chatted, and this is something I wanted to share with you. We chatted about moisture and when to put the sheetrock up. And I told him, I said, you know what I would do? And he said, what I would do is, Linda McCracken is one of my lenders, the inspectors that we use. And one day Leslie's gonna wanna sell that house.
Yeah.
So I told Joey, I would have Linda McCracken come out here and do an inspection prior to you closing up the walls and putting up the sheetrock. She has a moisture meter that can read the moisture in wood. I talked to Linda before I left, and she said it could be 3 to 4 weeks before
Yeah.
your house is ready to put sheetrock up.
Yeah.
Also, one thing I told Joey, this is Leslie's husband, is to sit down when they can collect all of your thoughts and write a paragraph of what we did. So
Yeah.
that when we put it on Mark,
Yeah.
she can have Linda's.
Yeah, it could be an attachment to the disclosure or whatever they wanted to share with a serious buyer or something like
The
that.
most important thing is to take a
Yeah.
picture of whatever you use
Yeah.
for the micro.
Right,
whatever.
yeah. So, yeah, I think 3 weeks is kind of what I'm hearing on getting moisture out of the houses, so.
And they're just, what I'm hearing is a lot of people are kind of like in limbo.
Yeah.
Because I've called different people yesterday.
Yeah, I can't start renovation too soon, so.
Actually, one of the good things about taking, I've done it in one of my people's garages, you buy that damp rid, and
Oh,
it
yeah?
comes on a little hanger,
Uh-huh,
and it works perfectly, and it has a nice fresh smell to it.
okay,
And
So
it
that
does
might
take
help
the moisture
facilitate
out.
that.
So if you put one in every room,
yeah,
it would be really good. And well, I don't know if Allspo's open again, but Alspa used to sell them.
Yeah, I know what
I'm
you're
sure
talking about.
Walmart sells
Yeah.
them.
What is it, Dan Brad?
Let me keep going through the list and we can kind of come back with some other great suggestions. Stephanie Scott, I was at her house all day Saturday. And she lives in the Barrington, had water to just up to the first drawer of the cabinets. Beautiful, gorgeous home. You know, it's just, I mean, everyone's got a beautiful home.
Well, I
but-
drove through there yesterday. It's a total disaster.
Yeah, every house in the
Every
Barrington,
house.
plus the clubhouse, took water in the Barrington. And she, I think, is in pretty good shape. But when I left on Saturday, they were down to just kitchen cabinets and a few other cabinets to get that out. You were there
I
also.
spoke with her yesterday, I was gonna go by to see if I could do something.
Yeah.
She said they're kind of like, she said, Donna, today we're catching our breath.
Yeah.
And everything's demoed.
Did her
and then-
parents show up? There's some family that has driven
She
in.
didn't say, but she didn't have a need as of yesterday.
Okay. And they came with like a truck. So that was, I think there was some opportunity to maybe load some stuff up for them. Renee Stevens, she's been helped. And I think everybody is good at Renee's house. Sherry Murray also had a property in the Barrington, but she had it on the market for sale and it was vacant because she's already relocated to Colorado. Is that right? Washington State, Pacific Northwest. So the blessing there for her was that there's no contents. It's just structural issues. And she had hired ServPro, who the neighbor was using, and primarily she did that because she wasn't here to help. And they drove. And I think on Saturday she was in Bastrop and trying to drive into Kingwood at that point. So they ended up starting to drive down. But Sherry, she has relocated to a Keller Williams office up in that part of the world. So she's still with Keller Williams, just not with our office any longer. Joe Rodriguez's mother, you may have seen his video on Facebook. KW Cares was able to help her. Bobby Callahan, that was one of the first houses that our team here at Northeast went and helped. She lives over in Ramblewood, which is kind of behind Humboldt First Baptist Church, kind of that neighborhood, back in that neck of the woods. And then Debbie Harris is Judy Hopkins' daughter. She had lived over in Crosby and then bought a house right here across Westlake Houston Parkway in Kings River. And how long has she been in that house?
Not even a year.
Yeah. And flooded.
She got demoed, and then yesterday a restoration company came.
Yeah.
And she's in the process of moving back.
Yeah, the good news was the house she had for sale in Crosby hadn't sold yet, so she's able to move back into that property for that. So that's the list of people that we know had water damage in their property. The people that had car damage, Tommy, you had a car that had water.
Water.
Yeah.
No, house.
Your house?
My son's house, yeah. So we took care of it.
How did we not get that on
Yes,
our
you did.
list?
Me and Matt been talking about it. I said I had about 1.5 foot of water in the back, but we took care of it. We demoed it and took care of everything.
So do you need anything at this point?
We don't.
I thought it was
That's why
only
I
your
wanna
car
take-
that was
I
an
wanna
issue.
No, a car was a 1/4 of an inch about going into the car.
Okay.
But the back house is adjacent with the pool, and the pool had 2 foot of water over that.
wow, I'm so
But
sorry.
we took care of it.
Okay.
We're fine, thank you. And I
Okay.
appreciate you just calling up and
Yeah.
following up. Everybody's been following up on
Good.
it.
And Leanne Torres had a car in the water. Is there-
Audrey.
Who?
Audrey.
Audrey had a car. She was in the apartment complex, so she had a car in the water, but her apartment was okay, right?
So, from what we understand, yeah, she was on the 3rd floor, so.
Yeah, that should be fine. I don't think it got beyond the first floor.
They just let her in yesterday, so we
Yeah.
haven't gotten reports yet.
Yeah. And I think that might be the only 2 that I knew about, or 3 that we knew about. Tom?
Yeah, I was gone in New Jersey, and I took my dad, my 90-year-old dad, up there. And I came back just a day or 2 ago, and I lost a car, but that's not the car I drive. It's the car I gave to my daughter who just got married.
Oh, wow.
She was in the Kings Cove apartments.
Yep.
That place just got wiped.
Yeah.
Just gone.
Yeah.
So I've got transportation on my car, and it was an older car. It was a 2007 Nissan Sentra, but it was underwater, and all those cars in that apartment are just.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Is that the one at Town Center? Where's Kings Cove?
Kings Cove is right behind by Sharky's.
Oh, over here. Okay, so by where Audrey's kind
They're
of.
in Kings Harbor,
Yeah, there's like 2 complexes there, Kings Cove and Kings Harbor
Magnolia
apartments.
Cove, okay. That's where
Yeah.
she was.
Okay. Good. Is there anybody else that you might know through social media that's a part of our Keller Williams family that we need to be made aware of?
I was affected.
Do what?
I was affected.
Yes, tell me about it.
I've only been here one day. My name is Michael Lawrence.
Yep.
Lost my house, lost my truck.
Oh, man.
Lost the shop and 2 of his vehicles.
Okay. So where are you at in your recovery, Michael?
Well, we've already got everything gutted out.
Okay.
We've been going through like containers and stuff that we have for storage because we have like almost 5 acres.
Okay. Where are you at?
You know where Walden Woods is?
Mm-hmm.
I live in Walden Woods.
Okay.
Back of Mills Branch.
Yep. Yep. In fact, I'm going to show you a map here in a minute, and it'll have several homes in Walden Woods that had issues there. So.
A little over 10 foot. It got up to the
Oh
upstairs.
my goodness.
And, I lived on the downstairs.
Oh wow.
So
Wow, I'm so sorry.
it's okay.
Okay.
No problem. We all recover. We
Yep.
all rebuild.
Well, we'll talk afterwards. We'll make sure that you have all the resources that you need for emergency funds and all that. Good. And so if you know of any, if we hear of anybody else, please make sure a staff member gets that information so we can add it to the spreadsheet. Keller Williams Cares wants to know so that we can make sure we're following up with folks in a proper manner and seeing, we obviously have had the initial issues, but there's going to be some other issues that come up, and that's going to take effect. And here's why I want to talk about that. When Katrina and Baton Rouge and Joplin, Missouri, all the issues that have taken place, natural disasters around the country, Keller Williams Cares has been there to help not only the agents, but the market centers too. So everybody who had an issue has an opportunity to be adopted by a Keller Williams agent from another part of the country to just kind of check in with you and help provide assistance. Now those people are volunteering for that opportunity. They want to help. Okay, so do not decline their help when they're saying, what can I do for you, other than pray for you. So what else can we offer you? Do you need a gift card for dinner? Do you need something like that? So we're going to accomplish that, compile that list. We'll reach out to everybody to see if they want to be adopted, and then tie that back to Keller Williams. The market center is going to get the same thing. So we'll have the opportunity for another market center in another part of the country just to check on me and Matt and Pam and Valerie and all of us that we've been trying to kind of work on to kind of help you. So they'll help us help you a little bit better. So I'm really appreciative that Keller Williams already has that system in place, and that's getting ready to go into effect. A couple of things that I wanted to share with you was that the Keller Williams Command Center is still operational. And if you're still looking for a volunteer opportunity, they would love to see you today or tomorrow or Thursday or Friday, okay? And here's the reason. There are still probably 30 Keller Williams agents' homes on the west side of town that still have water in them this morning, okay? People are just now being able to get back into their houses because the Addicks Reservoir and all the issues over there, they finally have gotten it to a point where it's safe enough. Even though there might still be water, people are now getting back into their houses to assess the damage. Some of them left their houses looking just fine, and now they're getting back to finding those issues. So the need, I know we had the immediate need here. The need is still prevalent over there, and the need is prevalent in Beaumont because Beaumont has had issues and still has issues. Mary Tennant, our former president, was in Beaumont yesterday, and she was driving around, and she said there were parts of where she was driving around she didn't think the truck was going to make it. The water was still deep in many of those roads. Okay, so that was just, and you kind of think, oh, it's gone, right? Beaumont is still having issues because of the rainwater that they got. Yeah.
They were setting off explosives yesterday in order to try to get some of the water out.
How does that work? So here's what you, yeah, Nick.
I have some friends from Keller Williams City View in San Antonio coming tomorrow, and they're going to be staying with me. So do you recommend I take them to the command center?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yeah, take them to the command center. And the way that you want to make sure they do it first is go to kwrelief.org and have them just register. That way they kind of know. I think there's a question on there as to when they can show up, or if they just put their contact information from there, we'll reach out to them going, when are you planning to be here? How many days can we expect you? So, yeah, that would be great. Do you have power back?
Yes, I do.
Good. We can now, in Houston, if you know of an agent from another company that needs help, we can provide assistance to them. So if there's somebody from another company that doesn't have the response that we've been able to provide, if you know of someone who needs that help, get with Matt or Valerie or Pam or I today. We'll get the information and we will email that directly to the command center so they can put a team together for that group also. Okay? Also, I want to make sure you understand that this is not just for you, it's for family members. And they wanted to initially have it for our agents and immediate family members, but we've now gone to second and third cousins. So if there's anybody else out there that is related to Keller's in-laws, people like that need assistance, we need to know about those people too. Yeah, okay. Now if they're done, then we're okay. But if they're still looking for some volunteers to show up, we need to know that, okay? Diane?
Do you have an idea how long the command center is going to be?
Yeah, so I'll talk about that in a second. So far through Friday, they've already given out 168 emergency grants totaling over $530,000. Now they had to stop because of the holiday weekend, and of course they couldn't do anything yesterday, but they have got everything they've collected for the weekend, and as soon as they were able to open the banks this morning, start wire transferring any of the requests that came in over the weekend. And they expect that to probably go up to the $700,000 total today. So there's KW Cares is ready for that. They've already collected online $1.3 million that's been paid online at kwcares.org through the last week, but they have millions pledged, probably somewhere around $4 million pledged. They have a goal of raising $20 million, okay? And the need is great. And the reason the need is great is because not of just what took place in Corpus, Port Aransas, Rockport, and the Houston, Beaumont area, but Irma does not look good. And that's the issue with the command center. The command center is probably trying to wrap it up in Houston as quickly as they can so they can pack up these 18-wheelers. KW Cares has 3 18-wheelers that they're going to start moving that direction so that they can be staged, ready to go into the Florida, whatever part of Florida they need to be in, probably sometime next week, okay? So if you've not found the place to place your money and you're looking for something other than J.J. Watt's Fund, which I think would be a great place to put money, the kwcares.org is a great place that 100% of the money you put at KW Cares goes to KW Cares. There's no KW Corporate covers all the operating expenses of running that charity, okay? So it's 100% in, 100% out, okay? And they follow very strict guidelines. They want to make sure that they're not just, they're trying to be very good stewards of your money to ensure that it goes to the right places and the people that have the biggest need, okay? So let me just talk briefly about the market, and then we'll get Jason up here to answer any legal questions that somebody might have. Some of you may have seen this. This is a interactive map that has been posted on Facebook. Would you cut that light real quick so we can kind of see it a little bit better? So this is the greater Houston area, and everything that's red was an affected property. And the cool thing about this map is that you can actually zero in, and it gives a little bit more detail if you wanted to look at specific areas. And the coded colors have to do with the severity of the flooding. So I think, yeah, see there's that Walden Woods there, Michael. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that kind of shows you our general market here on the northeast area, and you can see in the map the areas that got hit the hardest. Right down here is the that's Ramblewood, but right over here in Kingwood, this is going to be the Barrington. So that's where almost every property in there got it. This is Deer Cove over here. This is the very southern tip of some streets in Trellwood Village along Deer Cove, the street there, and then a little few properties that kind of go down to Woodland Hills. The Methodist Church sits right there at that corner. So kind of giving you some bearings, where my hand is where the Methodist Church sits. So that's as high as it got there on Woodland Hills Drive. And then as you get over into Kingwood Lakes, the lower properties, and almost everything south of Kingwood Drive, other than some homes up here closer to Woodland Hills Drive, everything there was affected. Do what?
King's Forest got that.
Yeah, and then across Kingwood Drive into King's Forest, you can see quite a few of the properties on the south side of King's Forest Drive were affected, even over off of Valley Manor.
All over Royal Circle.
Yeah, yeah. And then this is the neighborhood that is right by Kingwood Country Club and the patio homes, and these are all those patio homes there along Kingwood Drive. And then this is the neighborhood closest to Kingwood Country Club, where our good friends live, and they evacuated Wednesday morning. They've been spending the week with us. And then you come over here to West Lake Houston Parkway. Some properties over here off, I guess that's the back side of Bear Branch.
Yeah, main parking lot with red.
Yeah. A few of the dots along here on West Lake Houston Parkway aren't residential properties. Those are businesses, other than the apartment complexes that are going to be at Town Center. The kind of condos and townhomes that are behind the Randalls are right here. These are all the Enclave, the patio homes there at King's Crossing. This is going to be Kingwood Greens, and going down through all of the Kingwood Greens neighborhoods, and then over into Foster's Mill. Foster's Mill Estates, this is where Terry Blewett lives, and then over into some of the properties in Kings Point, in the neighborhoods kind of along the lower areas there.
Well, I heard that Royal Shores got badly hit.
Yeah, so Royal Shores is right here, and there's definitely some properties that got that, but I don't know that it's as significant. And then you get over here into the Atascocita side, the Point, got it bad. The Shores got it bad. Properties right over here on Walden along the river, along the lake, like what I told you earlier, Chris Heinrich lives right in this neck of the woods. And then, properties along the lake side over on the east side of Lake Houston got water. But the reason I have the map up here is for you to kind of look at the overall market. Look at all the places that didn't get water. Okay, even over here, Eagle Springs, and lots of neighborhoods down along West Lake Houston Parkway, going down into here's all Summerwood right here. So it looks bad when you drive around, but when you kind of look at the overall market, it's not as severe from an overall market standpoint. So that's what I want you to tell people. When I was packing yesterday over at Pat's house, I'm talking to neighbors because they're coming by to check on her and all that, and they find out I'm in real estate, and their first question is,
Market.
how is this going to affect our market, right? So my response has been this: it's going to have an effect, okay? Do we know the extent of that effect? Not necessarily. It had an effect in '94, the last time Kingwood experienced flooding. If there's a silver lining, and I know it's really hard to find one after the last week, you have to look at all of Houston. If someone's moving to Houston, Texas, can they say that Kingwood is the only place that flooded?
No.
Or Atascocita is the only place that flooded?
No.
I mean, it affected such a large area that it's going to be an issue for the entire Houston market. Now, Houston is such a big market that we're going to have people that move and buy in Houston. It's irregardless. I mean, oil and gas industry, the medical industry, all that's here in Houston is going to continue, that commerce is going to continue to thrive, okay? So we're going to have an effect, yes. Now here's the other thing, and I read this in a couple of articles last Friday, of what was the effect in Baton Rouge, and what was the effect in Joplin, Missouri, and even in New Orleans after those areas flooded. There was so much money being poured into those neighborhoods, and the jobs that were created and the commerce that was created by renovation and new appliances and new cars and everything that took place from insurance proceeds and government spending that they kind of ended up with a little bit of a bump in their economic, okay? So I don't want people to come away from this with the glass half full mentality, all right? Or half empty, right? I want you to come away with it being half full, right? Believe me, I did not practice this before we got in here. So we need to have that glass half full mentality, right? We need to be the voice of calm with our clients and our neighbors, okay? The sky is not falling. Houston has flooded before. Carla hit in 1961 and killed like 2,000 people, okay? Is Galveston still around? No. Absolutely it's still around, right? So, you know, it's going to have an effect, but it's not going to have a devastating effect, okay? So you need to be the voice of calm in those conversations with your clients. And do we know today, I mean, I had a guy say, well, what do you think my house is worth now? I have no idea. Because number one, you're not selling it now, right? He's going to get it fixed. And then he may put it on the market if he decides to sell at that point. Or he may have fixed it to a point that he loves it. Our good friends who live over by the country club moved into their house in '93, I think. I think they've been there a year. And then it flooded in '94, okay? So they stayed. And they remodeled it a couple of times since they've been there. Now, after '94, guess what they bought? Flood insurance. They didn't have it in '94, but they got it now because they're not in a floodplain. They weren't then, and they're not now. I mean, if you pull up a floodplain map, they're not in a floodplain, even though they flooded in '94, okay? But they bought flood insurance for this one, right? And they've been paying it for the last 17 years, or whatever the number of years is now, right? So they've been paying it all those years, and now it's going to, you know, pay off for them. And they're probably going to stay for a while, right? They're not going to fix it up and leave, but you know, it's devastating for people to go through, and we need to be there to love on those folks and help them as much as we can and counsel them when they need our advice. But can you provide an answer today as to what is going to happen to the Houston real estate market? No, we can't. But what you can tell them is all the positives that are going to come out of this. There's going to be great spending. There's going to be job growth. There's going to be people that come to Houston to be here because of the construction and the renovation that's taking place. So right now, if you had a rental house in Kingwood, Texas, oh my God. Yeah. I had an agent from Conroe call me over the weekend going, any chance you've got a house, right? And I was like, well, get in line with the other 300 people that are looking, right? And that's going to be our biggest challenge right now, is helping those that are needing that temporary housing. If you have a vacant listing for sale, you may want to have a serious conversation with that seller about, from a humanitarian standpoint, if they can do it, would they be interested in putting that house on the market for lease, letting someone lease it for 6 months? Because that could be a great benefit to a family member, and they'll probably get a premium because guess who's paying that coverage, right? Typically an insurance company might be covering that, so they'll typically pay that. Now, they need furnishings. There are lots of companies out there that will furnish a house. Court is one of them. They will furnish a house. So if they need C-O-R-T, yeah, they will furnish a house. Barbara?
I was going to ask about FEMA vouchers. Do you know anything about it? People are getting FEMA?
The only FEMA vouchers I've heard about initially have been the immediate, hotel voucher type. But there probably could be some long-term vouchers. Yeah.
I've been through this quite a bit. And the FEMA vouchers usually don't show up for at least a month to 6 weeks.
Well, my question was, how do they apply to rental homes, or do we know?
You kind of get paid back.
And what I've understood is from FEMA is that they pay the person filing the claim. They're getting the money.
It goes directly to them.
You're not giving it to the landlord. It's not like subsidized housing from that standpoint. It's coming to the claimant, and they're still having to pay, but they're getting reimbursed.
So if a landlord, I'm asking, I've got property desk in me.
Yeah.
If a landlord owner wants some kind of proof or coming proof that they're going to have that.
They probably only have at this point is the fact that they filed a claim. And then you can go to the FEMA website and read all about the housing assistance. That's what I would instruct them to do.
Taking about 10 days for them to get back.
Yeah.
Also with the FEMA, just because FEMA says that you're gonna get this amount, and there's rumors out there that says that you're gonna get this amount, you don't get that amount. You get very little. They do not pay for the whole amount of the lease. They do not pay for the whole amount of your hotels. They do not pay the whole amount of anything.
Okay. All right, Tom.
Is this considered the biggest storm here yet?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it?
It's, I think, going to come down to being the largest storm in U.S. history.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Most expensive.
Yeah, most expensive for sure, but I think just from the total amount of water, have y'all seen those stats?
Yeah, the whole year.
Yeah.
It rained all over the lower 48 states. It would cover the entire United States with like 1/8 of an inch of water. Now that doesn't sound like much, 1/8 of an inch, but we're talking the entire United States. That's how much water. If this amount of rain had just hit New Orleans, the area that was affected in New Orleans, it was like 25 feet of water.
Yeah. It was basically like Katrina, but New Orleans actually survived Katrina. It didn't survive the flooding.
Right.
It didn't survive the
And that's
levee break.
basically what happened here. It just didn't survive.
Yeah, Katrina got the storm surge, which we didn't get. We just got rain. Yeah. So, yeah.
There are a lot of people that are upset that Lake Conroe,
Yeah.
I guess the Army Corps of Engineers didn't drain the dam soon
Yeah.
enough. Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have thoughts on that. I'm not sure I have public thoughts on that. Now, here's what I will tell you. If you go back and look at more of a topographical map, and you can kind of see it here, there are lots of tributaries that feed into the San Jacinto River. It is not all just Lake Conroe, okay? So we can't blame it all on Lake Conroe, because a lot of water was coming from Cypress Creek and Spring Creek and other things that feed in below the dam, okay? Cypress Wood, the area over there, got just inundated. I mean, flash flood. And when you talk about, ours was like rising water, theirs was flash flood, like no time to escape type stuff. So, crazy. But, it had a factor, but, did it contribute worse? I've already heard on the news that Dan Huberty and Dave Martin have already called for investigations about that to determine what the Army Corps of Engineers, who controls that water flow, and the San Jacinto River Authority, what decision making was made to do that. Now, I know Lake Houston started lowering their level like on Wednesday or Thursday before the rain came. I don't know what Conroe was doing at that point.
Yeah, but in the 94 flood, the woodlands did flood the bottom end of it, and it didn't happen this time. And they're saying that, they directed it away from that. I have another question, though, on marketing.
Yeah.
I have the house next door to me. It's for sale. It's vacant. It did not flood. My house did not flood. The one next to it did. But, my guy, we just put carpets in last Friday.
Good.
He's asking me to raise he thinks I should raise
the price?
The price. We had come all the way down, actually.
Yeah.
So he's thinking to raise it. Now, I did also talk to him, the people have approached him directly to see if he would lease to them.
Right.
And he said he was just directing them to me, but so far none of them have called me.
Okay. So I had this conversation on Friday with one of our agents who's got a property over here in Kings River who didn't flood, right? A vacant house, family's already moved, and they had it overpriced originally when it went on the market, and they've had price reductions, and now they're like, okay, we want to go back up, right? Because they see that there could be a housing shortage.
Right.
My caution would be that it still has to close. It still has to appraise if there's a buyer with a loan. And the lender, the appraiser, is not necessarily going to go, oh, well, there was a flood, so there's huge demand, I can justify that price. They're going to have to go pull sales, okay? And they're not going to take an immediate low demand into an effect for some huge price increase. So as long as you tell your seller, I can raise the price however what you want, but here's the risk you run, is that even though we might find a buyer who's willing to pay that, if they're getting a loan, that will still have to appraise.
Well,
and are you willing to take that risk?
I've actually agreed to take it to the level where I've done the comps again.
Okay.
And it is higher than what we had it at, because he hadn't been doing stuff in the house that he should have done.
Right. Now he's done some things.
So I have raised it a little.
Yeah, but you know, the thing, I mean, that's going to only affect a buyer who was coming into the market that was going to buy anyway, and now can't buy the houses that he thought he might buy because they flooded, right? It did shrink our inventory. Let me pull something real quick, and then I'll answer any other questions. I looked real quick at the inventory of homes by week, active listings in Area 32, and of course the number of transactions closed. So this is for the week of ending August 28th. There was one closing that took place in Area 32. So who was the lucky dog there? Anybody? But here's the number of active listings. It went from 390 at the end of July down to 388, down to 375, down to 365. Now that's just the normal, probably attrition of end of August, end of summer, obviously some things closing, you know, that kind of thing. But here we go from the Friday before the storm, we had 365 active listings down to 339. So that's probably the biggest jump on a week-by-week standpoint. And that will probably be the result of people that had a house on the market that flooded, and they had to either withdraw it or terminate it. Okay? Now, was it every house in Kingwood that's no longer on the market?
No.
No, so that's the information you need to share with this seller going, yes, there is a smaller inventory, but it's not half as many homes.
10% or something.
Yeah.
However,
Barbara.
You know, we do have over an acre.
Do what?
In King's Forest.
You have what?
Over an acre in King's Forest.
Well, that would attract to anybody that wants a house on an over an acre home, yeah. But that would apply to a Sherwood Trails house, right? You know, can I go up $50,000 on my Sherwood Trails active listing?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah, Barbara.
So for people who are wanting to know resources and businesses, stores that are open, do you know if the businesses in the front of the Woodlands near the interstate flooded or not, or are they open?
The only thing that in the Woodlands?
Yeah.
The only thing that I'm aware of in the Woodlands that's commercial that had flooding issues was Hughes Landing.
So like if people need Best Buy or things like that, because ours down here is closed.
Yeah. There is also there's the Best Buy. There's a Best Buy right here in Atascocita that's fine, and I think probably the Best Buy across the I-45 there at Spring High School is probably okay too.
Employees from Best Buy at Humble proper are working at
The
Atascocita.
one is 59 is open, isn't it?
No, it's not. It wasn't open.
The one behind Pappas, it flooded.
Oh,
The
that
one in
one.
Atascocita is open because I was there yesterday.
Pappas, I know Pappas.
Yes, sir, Rick.
Any information on town center on like when that, I mean, I heard HEB was gonna be open in November.
Yeah.
like, But any other?
Ospaws is open.
Are they?
I think they win the prize for the first retail place to open. I'm sure Rick was in there, you know,
Rick's no longer there.
throwing the water out the bucket there. So it's going to be a process, obviously, for all those stores to go through that. I would say it's going to be months for most, the majority of them. Yeah, Donna?
I came into the meeting late, I'm sorry. So you've talked about taking care of our agents and what KW Cares is doing for them, but are we going to talk as a group about how we can help our clients? Did I miss that part? Because, I mean, I don't know if there's anything where we can shop talk together the needs for our clients. Is it going to get that far down, or are we still just Keller Williams dealing with our agents?
Talking, like helping clients with their recovery or with housing issues?
With the recovery and just...
So KW Cares is at the point to where they can help other fellow agents outside of Keller Williams. That would be their next level. So if you know of an agent that's not with Keller Williams that needs assistance, they're happy to send a crew out there in the next several days. They're also willing to help extended family. So initially it was just your immediate family, but now the third cousins count. So, you know, that can help from a KW Cares standpoint of recovery. They are not going to our clients. Okay. So,
I don't know whether other churches are doing it, but our church has actually got a fund, and it, for the first 2 weekends we're going to collect money, and it'll go just to the Kingwood people.
right.
And in fact, our old church is one of the centres, shelters.
Right.
Yeah, St. Martha's and
And then after that, it'll go to Harvey, but as a whole.
Sure. A lot of the faith-based organizations are doing lots of things like that. Yeah. All right.
Michael, I have a real positive.
Okay.
Okay, this was just blew me away. We had a guy drive up to our shelter in Atascocita at our church, and he says, "Do you mind if I go ahead and cook and feed everybody?" He has a furniture store on North Park there, and he the first night we had 80. Skiros. And then the next night, I don't know how many were there, and the preacher didn't even know that 40 of those Cajun guys with their boats came in and slept on the floor at 11 o'clock and left the next morning. And he said, after he got done cooking supper, he says, everybody will be hungry in the morning and I'll be back. And he had this huge cooker. So I just wanted to say, I could not believe, the outreach was.
And we haven't really talked about that, and I was thinking about it this weekend. You know, we're in the midst of our random acts of kindness, and it comes up this Friday. Good grief! You know, I think I'm overloaded with the random acts of kindness that either I've witnessed, or I've been able to perform myself, or I've been a recipient of.
Yes.
I appreciate the prayer and the uplifting comments that have been passed to staff members. We worked through the weekend. There was no Labor Day holiday. We were working yesterday. Matt and I's birthday was packing dishes.
That's gifts, huh?
So it's been a blessing, and the random acts of kindness have been overflowing, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute.
Judy would be proud.
Do what? Yes, she would.
Judy would be proud.
Yes, she would. Yeah. All right. So Diane, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the Heart Walk and also Friday.
Okay. The Heart Walk sign up sheet is going around. The second page is that you signed up last week or last Sunday. Last week, I don't remember. But anyway, sign up for that. That is in November, but we want to get our teams together because we're going to have the kickoff very shortly. And Linda Harris and Sean Stout are our coaches. And so we have two teams, an A and a B, a red and a white team, that are going to do that walk and sort of have a little friendly competitiveness between this.
Yeah, we kind of missed off having our kickoff, so we'll have to get that on the calendar.
Right.
So yeah, it was supposed to be last week, but yeah,
this part of
Yeah.
September. But this Friday is a great time to really lift your spirits and come to our Random Acts of Kindness Ice Cream Social. It is at 11:30. We're going to have a lunch bunch, and then the ice cream social, and we'll share some of the. Really, we've had a flood of
literally
random acts of kindness.
Yeah.
And my hope is that in the long run, those are the things you're going to remember about the flood. That will impact you in the long run.
Yeah.
Those acts, and we can share some of those on Friday.
Okay, great, thank you. So before we end, I know some of you might be on a time schedule, you need to get somewhere, but Jason Medley's here, and I asked Jason come this morning to ask any quick legal questions that somebody might have concerning landlord-tenant issues or maybe contract issues where people are kind of getting a little snotty, and how he can help maybe give you some verbiage to use in your conversations back to your clients. So does anybody have something they want to ask? Denise?
I have a quick question. I know a lot of people are saying if you have an empty house, maybe you should put it up for lease. Could we only market to how can we do that?
Great question. Before I get to all those, I know you've been going at it now more than an hour, and I want to be respectful of your time. And so you've got questions I know that are going to come up between now and for a long time. So just reach out to me. I'll field all those calls. I brought some of my cards.
And he's on the office roster, but I'll put an email out with all of his contact information.
What's on my?
Yeah. Now this is not for eternity. This is try to keep it related to the issues going on right now because he does run a business. So yeah.
Yes, and we're back in operation today. In fact, our office just reopened after we got
his office flooded.
But anyway, we're plowing forward and we're going to get back in business. But if you've got a Harvey-related question or issue, my cell phone I think is one that's published. So just call me on that number. And there's my card too. So my landline is open now too. So we're good. In general, this can probably answer a lot of your questions, is that this was just one big act of God. but it doesn't give people the right to use it as an excuse to act like the devil and review people, right? So the email that Michael sent out was summarized it pretty well. For closings, if you've got a closing that hasn't taken place yet, it's covered by the casualty loss section of the earnest money contract. I think that's 14. Basically, it's the sell. If it's really destroyed, the seller and buyer have some decisions to make pursuant to that section: repair and extend closing, or just go ahead and close and have an assignment of insurance proceeds, which is not. That requires an extra step. Just keep that in mind. The seller's insurance company has to be made aware of that, and then they have
and agree to it.
And agree to it, and then they have to sign some documents. There's usually a deductible, and that deductible would unfortunately have to come off the sale price or be a credit. Of course, the rental market is different because that's a continuing obligation. If you've got a landlord and tenant every month, it's a new transaction for them, basically. And if the property's been destroyed substantially and they can't fix it in due time, then the landlord can just cancel the lease if they want. And if they can't fix it reasonably soon, then yeah, the tenant who can't live there, rent is abated for that period of time. The Texas Apartment Association has great information on their website that can help do those things. And if you have specific questions, because even that general information, you still have a bunch of what ifs. And, oh, but in my situation, here's what's going on. The facts don't always line up and fit into that real neatly. So just give me a call if you have any of those questions. Your question specifically, repeat it for me.
So like a lot of people that might have their empty houses.
Oh, can you mark it specifically to flood victims? I don't think you're going to have to worry about them. I think you're going to have a great amount of inventory that you will have that without even trying. The prohibitions on selectivity are constitutional things where you can't discriminate on the basis of race, gender, things like that.
Familial status.
Right. That's correct. You can't market only to people without kids or things like that. But in age discrimination. There is nothing. Being in a disaster and not being in a disaster is not a protected class. So technically you could, but you're not going to have to.
And HAR, I don't know if you've seen the emails, that they're basically creating another subset on HAR for short-term leases. So that would be the place to probably, I think you can, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm believing you can leave it as a long-term lease, but you can also now market it as a potential short-term lease for people to be able to search those short-term opportunities rather than going through all the leasing opportunities that are out there. Barbara?
So for renters, what is considered legally the reasonable time frame that if the landlord can't or doesn't repair it in, that the renter could then get out of their lease?
Yeah, so I had a conversation with a property management firm out of Round Rock that Avis Wukosh, who is the current chair of TREC, recommended that I talk to kind of with that question. And he basically came back and said that 7 days is considered reasonable time, and you can get a 7-day extension. So 14 days is kind of it. Now, can somebody do everything in 14 days? No. Probably not, right? We already talked about the fact that you probably need to leave it, airing out for 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks. So that's probably not going to work unless it was, roof leak, minor damage type stuff. You might be able to resolve that inside that 7 or 14 day time period. But pulling the sheetrock out and dealing with everything that's going to go in there, it's going to be impossible for someone to comply with that.
And the problem is that the landlord then has an option to just terminate the lease, which economically you would think that they wouldn't do that. And the tenant that's staying with friends, family, or somewhere else is going to want to get, that's their apartment.
Yeah, there was an article in the Chronicle today about people that had already been delivered eviction notices, and they had 5 days to evict. And some of them couldn't even get back to their apartment complexes to get their stuff out because they're still flooded.
And that's legal. That's my question. That's legal for the landlord to only get 5 days?
If you've ever been in small claims court, yes, that is legal. The small claims court judge, don't hang up, has great discretion And you will not find favor in front of the court if you are being overly zealous and hyper-technical with the terms of your lease and your landlord.
But from the landlord's standpoint, they're anxious to get in there and protect their property too, right? They don't want the tenant to go, well, I'll move it out in a month when I find a place to move it to. They're ready to get in there and pull the sheetrock out and start airing that property
and if
out.
somebody doesn't leave, they can get them out.
Yeah.
They can get them out to be able to do that stuff. They may have to actually evict in order to do that. But this is all going to be like a case-by-case basis.
Barbara and then Tom.
I apologize if you already answered this. Is the tenant legally responsible to pay rent for the days that they are out of the house or apartment?
Yes, until the lease terminates.
They are, even if it's not habitable.
But if it takes longer than reasonable, then you have rent abatement. But
Right.
the lease, if you look at the standard TAA lease, I think it's section 25. It's not over. It's not. It doesn't invite great. It's not an invitation for the tenant to stop paying, because really the tenant has to keep paying no matter what. But if it's rendered untenable and it can be repaired quickly, then yeah, they have to. Then they can stop paying rent.
But if they're out for 2 weeks and are able to then get back.
Let's say they paid their September 1st rent payment, right? And now September 10th comes and there is no way that property is going to be repairable in a short period of time. Then they can come to the agreement to terminate the lease, and the landlord should rebate them the unused days of that month, plus refund the deposit.
This is a great opportunity to remind agents, we're not giving legal advice, but your clients are going to come to you, and so and you need to be there for them. You serve a lot of different roles. You're also unlicensed therapist, right? Especially during.
No, we're not.
So what you need to tell them, and anyone that asks, buyers and sellers included, is that I can't give legal advice, okay? But here's what I've been told.
Or here's what I've read in an article or whatever. And like the Houston Chronicle, I think has had an article almost every day on that, and you can probably find that information online.
The Houston Volunteer Lawyers Project, they're answering phone calls just like this right now. Just remember, if you have a tenant, Houston Volunteer Lawyers Project.
Tom, you had a question, and then we'll move on.
Yes. What about flooded first floor apartments? And the people in the second floor don't want to get bothered by mold. Do they have to move back in if the apartment complex?
They don't ever have to move back in, but they're going to have to keep paying rent. If it is structurally sound, so that it's, and how are they going to know that? The landlord is probably just going to tell them it is. But they can get up to the second floor, they can get in, and you're absolutely right. What's happening on that first floor, is hot air rises, and so it's going to affect their, the air quality and that kind of thing.
Hopefully most of the apartment complexes are using a professional service who is in there doing the right thing, but of course there can be some that aren't. My landlord in Livingston has just bent over backwards to be completely uncooperative. So, yeah. Joe?
What about the reverse world? What about on the tenant side, if they executed a lease, the house is damaged, can they walk away without being liable for having to put up, to execute that? It's executed.
Yeah, on the front page of the lease agreement there is an occupancy paragraph, and it talks a little bit about that. But if they can't take occupancy, then there's some options for the tenant to bow out and get their money back.
That would be like for a rent or a tenant that was supposed to take occupancy.
Because they got approved, they put up their deposit amount,
right,
and say they're supposed to move in September 1st. Right. Are they in violation if they don't pay that rent?
And they never took possession? They just paid the deposit?
Yeah, but the lease protects commencement date if the tenant defaults, not the landlord.
Yeah, I would say they are responsible, but then they can apply for terminating and getting a rebate.
Mm-hmm. I think, in my opinion, is that that's a situation that would be in favor of the tenant getting out. No one's ever going to force them to go into.
I mean, if we look at it legally, they probably would be responsible, but if as a landlord really going to demand that they make payment on a property you can't even deliver to them?
And then the issue comes up is if you give them a deposit amount, how many landlords are going to want to refund that out? So and then the loss that they're in right now.
If landlords terminate, they still have the 30 days, but only 30 days to refund.
And if they can't nickel and dime, they basically have to refund it. All right.
So I'm here if you need.
Yeah, you're gonna be here for a little while?
Yeah, someone's already grabbed me, so
Okay.
I will be here.
Good.
Maybe I'll just go in there.
So before we leave, we really didn't have an opportunity to properly celebrate somebody's birthday, so we're gonna do that now. And we've got the perfect birthday cake for him because he loves sugar and he loves donuts. So Matt, come on up here and let's sing happy birthday to you. All right, who can start us? Amy, can you start us off?
Sure.
To you, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Matt. Happy birthday to you.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Look here, man.
Eat them all before you do.